Hi, Leigh.
Hello.
How are we doing this fine morning?
I woke up and it wasn't a dream. It was all real still.
Yeah. That might be life now.
Should we just go back to the year 2000?
Let's, because actually, I was going to say to you, this episode was a real tonic.
It was exactly the episode that I needed given the world's current events.
Yeah.
If listener, you're listening to this in the year 2047, we're recording this on the 8th of November, 2024.
It's fresh.
It's still feeling fresh. My housemate tried to speak to me about the election and kind of unpack it together. And I said, I don't know what you mean. The year is 2012. Obama is president. And that's where I'm choosing to live.
I served 2 Americans in the pub that I work in yesterday. And they were just like chatting about what they'd been up to that day, like the restaurant they were going to go to that evening. And I just, my manager had to be like, you need to take a beat. So I was like, are you enjoying your holiday? Are you having a nice time? I had to bite my tongue and not ask them if they'd done an early vote. Alas, let's not get into that. Let's instead away to Aaron Sorkin's White House, shall we?
Let's to the Bartlet administration.
Excellent. Well, welcome back, listener, to Queer Gals Watch the West Wing. And we are in season 2, looking at episode 5 of The West Wing, which is called And Surely It's to Their Credit, which I love. And should I just dive straight into the episode recap, Leigh?
Let's do it.
Let's just go. So the previously on this week is very Ainsley heavy.
We love to see it.
And honestly, Leigh, like, this is what I need today.
Ainsley Hayes is, I think, at this moment, the only Republican I respect.
Yeah, truly. Also, you know, when you're like, I've decided just that this character is the only thing that's getting me through, and now my entire happiness is based on their continuation in this show.
Yes, agreed.
But we open this episode with our faves, Josh and Donna, and iconically, the opening lines of this episode are simply Josh shouting Donna's name.
Donna!
Donna! And Donna just going, don't shout.
They're already an old married couple.
So Josh is upset because he has $50,000 of unpaid medical bills from his, life-saving surgery after being shot on an assassination attempt of Charlie.
Which I would say is a fair thing to be upset about.
I think so. And cue at this point in the episode, me just taking a moment to appreciate the NHS.
I think it's important that we take a moment to appreciate the NHS because obviously the NHS has been kind of slightly ripped to shreds by the Tory government. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that we don't love her.
Yeah.
And appreciate her.
I can get referred to a hospital department and go and have a procedure and not have to pay for it because I pay for it with my taxes.
Yeah. I mean, famously, Dad's CT scan that showed that my father's CT scan that ended up showing that he had stage 4 cancer was deemed not medically necessary by our insurance at the time.
Sweet. Sweet vibes
in the States. So,
yeah.
I'm right there with Josh. I understand his pain.
I love his outrage.
Yeah.
I really do, because he has insurance. It's just that apparently he should have made a phone call after being shot.
When, as Toby points out, his lung was collapsed and blood had stopped flowing to his brain.
Oh, it's truly, it's just insane. Anyway, the other insane thing that happens in this scene is that Josh asks Sam for help. But more on this later. I would like to say that Donna is wearing a flawless red skirt suit.
Yes.
And she looks magnificent.
Red is truly her colour. It's the perfect shade of red for her. She's clearly had her colours done. She is a Swiftie before her time.
Yeah.
And she is in her red era 20 years in advance.
Yeah. And I think as a blonde, it can often be a hard colour to pull off. Not all blondes can wear red. And I think with her famously alabaster skin.
Love that throwback from you.
Yeah, I think she just looks sensational. You know, the SPF's been doing wonders for her.
And actually, as the episode continues, I noticed that we have several of our kind of leading ladies in red suits this week. And I'm wondering what the significance might be. And I'm wondering if it's a nod to Ainsley.
Perhaps a subtle moment of fashion bipartisanism.
Did the girlies coordinate their outfits? Did Abbey give Donna a call this morning and say, I think we should all wear red today as a sign of unity with Ainsley?
I would die if that were real. Just a round robin organised by Margaret, just crashing the email system again. Okay, so Donna has a little storyline this week, which we love to see. It is chaotic. But we're going to go with it. This whole episode is fucking bonkers, by the way.
It was, and that is why it's what I needed. Nothing too deep. No coups this week.
No. Just very internal based stuff, which is quite nice. It didn't feel like we were kind of doing too much world politics here.
Yeah.
So Donna's little storyline is that every week Bartlet does a radio address. Very cute. Is this a real thing?
So Franklin D. Roosevelt, FDR, as we would say in Ireland, was the first US president to kind of start the radio address, which was then revived by Ronald Reagan, who did like a weekly Saturday radio broadcast. So again, we have a kind of like Bartlet, Ronald Reagan parallel moment.
Yeah.
And this was continued up until Donald Trump stopped doing it about a year and a half into his administration.
Yeah, just decided he didn't want to do it anymore. Sweet. Moving on. Donna is kind of in charge of like hosting the audience that comes in. So like groups of donors, school groups, guests, etc. It's kind of like, I think it's sort of used as a bit of a treat for people coming in to like watch the president do the recording.
Yeah.
Which he records on the Friday before it airs on the Saturday. Unsurprisingly, the true professional performer that he is.
Lest we forget, he played the stage manager in our town.
We will never forget, Leigh. I will never forget. Jed gets very stressed about these and often misses them up. And Donna refers back to a time where it took an hour and a half and she had to bribe people with keychains. Now, Donna's cornered Sam and is like, basically like, stay and watch me do my bit.
Because she's added some jokes.
They're terrible. And like, no one in this group laughs at the joke. The joke is like I work for Deputy Chief of Staff Josh Lyman, which I guess makes me the Deputy Chief of Staff. Like, dies on her ass.
I never want to see Donna's type 5.
No, I don't think it would be tight.
No, there's nothing worse than showing up to an open mic and someone coming out on stage and being very much the moment they arrive on stage going, oh, they don't got this.
There's not a plan.
No.
What I do love is that Sam Seaborn just gives her a double thumbs up and then immediately leaves. The second joke that she does, which is even worse, is form a horseshoe against that wall. Not an actual horseshoe. That takes special training as a blacksmith. She then says to Bartlet, they didn't laugh at the blacksmith joke. And he just looks her dead in the eye and says, that's almost hard to believe, Donna. One of the many frisky and free things Jed does this episode.
Yeah, he's not super busy running the free world this ep.
Very free to just like prat about. Okay, to CJ and the sisterhood. So I love that CJ has just decided that she is fine with Ainsley now. Like, she's had her moment to throw the toys out of the pram.
Yeah.
And she's just like, I'm going to have it out with Toby about the fact that everyone's shitting on Ainsley from a great height. To CJ's point, I don't think it's that she's a Republican. I think it's that she's a Republican woman and she's good looking.
Yeah.
Which I think nails it. And Toby's response is that, well, those are three things when in combination that usually spell careerism. And like, I'm always so with Toby, but I'm like, yeah, but you've decided that. Men have decided that stereotype.
Yeah. And I think there is maybe something about, and one wouldn't wish to cast aspersions, but there is something about, particularly on the more Republican conservative side of politics, specifically in the US, there is something about women being held in the Republican Party to quite high beauty standards.
Yeah, but it's also this like misogynistic view that you can't be beautiful and stand for something.
Yeah, and you can't be beautiful and know what you're talking about.
Yeah, if you want to be smart and powerful, you should be ugly.
Or you shouldn't care about your appearance.
Yeah, it's like, oh, yeah, but then also you get torn down for that.
Yeah. It's impossible.
It's impossible. Leigh, some might say, it's impossible to be a woman.
But what I do love is that all it takes for CJ to be loyal to Ainsley is she's had her one moment where Ainsley has come through for her, and that's enough for her, that she's decided that she is trustworthy and she is going to be a supporter of Ainsley's until she gives her a reason not to.
As she says, I think it's sexist in a bad way and I'm coming down on her side. Here is to a future CJ and Ainsley storyline. Would love that.
Love it.
So the news from Toby is that Ed Barry, who is a retiring general, is doing a bunch of press interviews, which is likely to kind of be a pile on the president because he's retiring. So like they're thinking it's kind of like a cut and run situation. Carol is therefore summoned. I think an ass kicking may be in order because CJ just says, I don't give a damn if it's convenient, which I love. Because it's been a while since we've seen CJ with some mojo.
Yes, I hadn't even thought of that. She's got her like authoritative air back.
Yeah, we spent like the kind of back end of last season seeking permission a lot.
Yes.
And now I think we're just taking initiative and I'm really excited about that.
Yes. Also just a moment for when Carol ducks in. She is in a wide like pantsuit, which I also believe is in like a dark burgundy. So she's in on the coordinated outfits today as well.
Incredible. Toby kind of tries to claw things back as he leaves by saying, by the way, you're a beautiful woman and no one around here has ever assumed that you are either ambitious or stupid. To which CJ just replies, that took 2 years for him to say that. And they're like famously long-term friends. But to my new favourite duo, Ainsley and Leo.
Oh, a friendship for the ages.
I know. Leigh, I love this comment you've put in the shared doc.
I think we should do a count on how many times Ainsley opens a conversation by saying, I'm a Republican.
She does love to state that she's a Republican. I would like to say that I don't think I have ever heard any of the other characters say they're a Democrat.
No. It kind of is like to such a marked extent that I'm almost like, it kind of feels like when I'm trying to, like a nervous tick, or like when I'm trying to like flirt and I'm not sure whether someone has clocked that I'm queer. And so therefore I'm just for absolutely no reason constantly announcing like, as a queer woman, as a lesbian, as someone who is attracted to women.
So good. I do want to say that we have a new character alert this episode, and it could be one of my all-time faves. Leigh, I am obsessed with Lionel Tribby.
He is deranged, which is a word we're going to come back to in our study session in quite a big way. Just kind of tease that for you.
Stunning. So Lionel Tribby is basically like the head of the, I can't remember that, but it's like the lawyers group, the
White House Counsel.
That's the one. So he's like the chief dude. Which
are all of the people that got in quite a lot of trouble in the Trump administration round one, if we recall.
Gulp. Obviously, Ainsley is very stressed because she's like, I'm a Republican, and Lionel Tribby is very not a Republican. In her own words, she says, I want to die. And Leo just says, it's the White House. You get used to that feeling. Which is amazing.
Which is a very funny commentary on season 1.
Yes. Lionel Tribby's entrance into this scene is to smash through a door with a cricket bat and say, Leo, I will kill people today. I will kill people with this cricket bat, which was given to me by Her Royal Majesty Elizabeth Windsor, and then I will kill them again with my own hands.
I hope Aaron Sorkin went home the night that he wrote that line and poured himself a large glass of Malbec.
And just was like, that's a good job done.
It's a great job done.
So Lionel is angry because 2 people have testified that the Rockland memo wasn't in possession of the White House when it was in possession of the White House. He then calls Ainsley an idiot to her face, which I do actually enjoy. It's just a simple and clear insult. And I just don't think we get enough of that these days, just being like, you're an idiot.
Yeah, I also think if you're going to say something, have the balls to say it in front of the person's face. So I can do nothing but respect it.
Exactly. Thank you. I just think that the scene is truly like insane and everyone's talking so fast. Another moment which I really loved was the president asked me to hire her for your office. The president of what asked you to hire her for my office? The United States. In response to this, Lionel simply hangs his head, laughs maniacally, and then says, excuse me, and just leaves brandishing his cricket bat.
The comic timing of this actor, the comic timing of the hanging of the head made me laugh out loud.
Yeah. Like it was a true bark of laughter from me in that moment.
I also loved when Leo was asking him to like be tolerant to those who disagree with us, speaking about a particular Supreme Court justice, and his response was, I believe as long as Justice Dreyfus is intolerant towards gays, lesbians, blacks, unions, women, poor people, and the First, Fourth, Fifth, and Ninth Amendments, I will remain intolerant towards him. Nice to meet you, to Ainsley. And I would say that is the tone we should all be taking with 47.
Truth there from Lionel. Let's go back to Bartlet and his radio recording. He's still going. It's not going well. He's doing a good take. Cue Lionel and his cricket bat. Just, again, storming into the room and saying, Mr. President, have you lost what little was left of your mind? I can't possibly work like this. Stunning. He then, when Jed's like, what's this about? Lionel says, I would like to discuss the hiring of blonde and leggy fascists.
Obsessed. Do you remember that time that when we were working in the pub that a man called me a fascist because I told him he couldn't stand up with his pint during COVID and he had to be sat at a table?
Yes. That was so funny.
I have to say, though, this is exactly the kind of angry man that I do like. He's just bombastic.
It's not threatening.
It's not threatening.
It's not threatening. He just loves words and he loves to feel. And actually, I think we should celebrate a man who loves to feel, you know?
Yeah. I also love a man where he's absolutely never going to leave me in any doubt of where I stand.
For sure. There's no gaslighting here. He's going to be clear.
Exactly.
He's always going to be clear. When he's dismissed by Jed, Jed says, well, obviously, Lionel Tribby is a brilliant lawyer whom we cannot live without, or there would be very little reason not to put him in prison. And these are the zingers I need, Leigh.
Yes.
I need these zingers. I need sharp, tight, comic scripting. Hook it to my veins. Back to Sam working out Josh's medical bills. He's chatting to Toby about this because Toby's like, could we actually do the work that we're supposed to be doing rather than just helping our pal out? And Sam's like, this doesn't make any sense. And Toby says, I like a country where you can sue the insurance company, but not the people who shot you. Cue Sam having an idea. And bless Rob Lowe, but he plays out that beat to the nth degree. All it was missing was a literal light bulb above his head.
Not to invoke she who must not be named, but it's very Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe, I should say, in the Goblet of Fire film, when he walks into the tent and says, I love magic.
That's such a niche reference. I'm going to leave that with you, Leigh. Also, I feel like we can, without any shame, talk about our love for Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh, we love Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah. So here's to you, Daniel. We love you, and we love that you're an ally.
What a delightful episode of Who Do You Think You Are?
Honestly, where he was just so moved by the women
in his family history
that have come before him.
Wow.
Beautiful. Would recommend. The kind of culmination of Sam's bright idea is him turning to Josh and saying, Josh, the Southern Poverty Law Center wants you to sue the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan for $100 million.
In the words of Shania Twain, let's fucking go, girls.
What a line. Just to top this scene off, if it could possibly be topped. Ginger then does another door frame lean, a la last week. And I don't even know what she said Leigh, because she was wearing like high-waisted cream slacks with like a matching powder blue sweater and cardigan. And she looked so hot, I didn't listen to a word she said.
She always looks hot. She really is stunning. And the fashion is always on fleek.
Yeah, she is the moment. Now, Leigh, we do have another gift this episode, which is the return of Stockard Channing.
Yes, we do.
And I would just like to preface this, listener, by let's just take a little journey in our imaginations to the day when this script landed on Stockard Channing's doorstep and on Martin Sheen's doorstep. And they read this particular scene.
Stockard Channing is relishing every moment of this.
The sexual chemistry between these two actors is insane.
Off the charts.
I didn't think that it was gonna happen, Leigh, that I was gonna be watching a political drama where the President of the United States and the First Lady try to fuck in the Oval Office.
This is what I needed this week. This is what I needed.
It's the most unhinged 3 to 4 minutes of television I've ever seen. So Abbey Bartlet walks up to Charlie and says, take this note to Jed. Your blood pressure is 120/80. Your EKG shows good sinus rhythm. No evidence of ischemic changes. Electrolytes and metabolic panels are within normal limits. Chest x-ray is clear and prostate screens are fine. So we can have sex now.
She's dictating this to Charlie, the boyfriend of her daughter.
Of her youngest daughter. Chaos then ensues. Jed immediately comes into the room. Mrs. Landingham's like, hello, is there anything I can do? And he just says, go away right now. And then she says, you seem a little tense. And he just says, not for long. And I died.
Wow.
Yeah, cue Jed like dragging Abbey Bartlet into the Oval Office and being like, do the curtains close in here? What is happening? The man is horny as sin.
The look he gives Abbey as she walks out of the Oval Office is the hottest thing I've ever seen. I was spiritually transported as if I was watching them like have a frisson in the library in college in 1967.
I was just about like, you've taken the words out of my mouth. Like, I just feel like when they were at college, they banged like under the bleachers at like a fucking like Notre Dame game, or I just think they were just crazy. Also, isn't Notre Dame like a Catholic?
It is Catholic, yeah. They have Touchdown Jesus.
Wow, what the? Like their mascot is Jesus?
As in, like when they are trying to when they're trying to score a touchdown at Notre Dame home football games, the like goal posts, you're looking directly at an image of Jesus Christ. So you're trying to like
touchdown Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow. I think it would probably be I have no comment to make on that I think is appropriate. Let's move on. Let's go back to CJ and this angry general. Quick touch base here. The general sent his aide to talk to CJ and she's just having none of it. She's like, go back and tell him he's a coward. Like, she is out for blood. Also, she does this amazing correction of him where he's like, your president such and such and such. And she says, my president is your president too. Also just obsessed with the framing of this scene where she's shouting at this aide. Carol is just in the background, like holding a file, just like staring at CJ, hanging on every word to take back to her girlfriend and the cats, for sure. Leo's being a sweet king. And again, also, does he not have work to do? But I'm just gonna bench all of that because I love this. He's showing Ainsley to her new office, which is like in the bowels of the West Wing. It's like they go down so many staircases.
It's actual comedy gold how many flights of stairs they go down to get to her office.
Yeah. And it's just, I can't with Leo calling her kid.
I know. It's very creepy when like Mr. Big is calling Carrie kid because obviously they sleep together.
Yes.
But in a world in which it's like the twinkle in his eye, magical man.
He's being like, I'm going to treat you with the respect that I treat my daughter with.
Yes.
That's what makes it emotional for me. Is like,
but where is Mallory?
Who knows? I mean, probably just doing her job, which like last season, it feels like she probably really wasn't in school that much.
No.
Anyway, Ainsley's office is just like a sad pipe room, which is also kind of comedy. But one of the things I do love, which Leo says, which I think is just like very adorable, but also kind of like made me proud to be an honorary American, is he says, Ainsley, don't worry about Sam or Josh or Toby or CJ or the Democrats on the Hill or the Republicans on TV. You're here to serve the president. Anyway, welcome to the White House. After this, Ainsley gets her first assignment from Lionel Tribby, which is to go and smooth over the Rockland memo business. It's a truly fantastic scene between the two of them.
My favorite comedy line in this scene is when he says, I see you found your office. And she just says, such as it is. She is so funny.
She's so
Ainsley
funny.
is so funny.
But she's also so smart because he's like, men and women have worked in whatever place they can call an office. And and you're standing here complaining. And she was like, I don't think you heard me complain. And she's right. Obsessed with.
She's really shady and I love it.
Yeah, she's always reading people. Cue, bizarrely from the scene with Lionel Tribby, a running joke about Gilbert and Sullivan, of all things.
I really don't follow.
Who in the writer's room dreamt this shit up, Lee? It's fucking insane. And it's pervasive throughout the rest of the episode.
I really didn't expect it to be like a running thread.
No, it's crazy.
Or become a theme.
Going back to Ainsley and us being obsessed with the way that she speaks, she does a classic Ainsleyism and says to Lionel, I'd like to do well on this, my first assignment. Any advice you could give me that might point me in the way of success would be, by me, appreciated. Stunning. Anyway, should we go back to the boys?
Yes.
Sam has his knickers in a twist because Ainsley was sent to do this Rockland memo thing.
And that was his job. He wanted to do that job.
And he doesn't like to share. But it's because he doesn't trust her. Unlike CJ, he's not been like, okay, she's proven herself, I trust her. Because he's convinced that she's going to leak the story to the press because she can't put aside, like, her republicanism.
Partisan politics.
Exactly. Toby comes in with a firm, that's enough to this.
The world would be a better place if more straight white men were willing to say to their boys, that's enough.
And that's the end of the episode. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Lee has just completed the work we were planning to do here today. Yeah, that's it. That's just that's enough. Just shut it down.
You don't have to get on board with every joke.
Yeah, you can be like, you can also be like, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah,
just talk about something else. Josh floats the idea of suing the KKK. A sentence I never thought I'd say on this podcast, with Toby and Leo. And they're kind of not 100% up for it because they're like, well, we can obviously depose all of these people that we want to get information from in kind of for reasons of national security. But also we can be deposed too. And that could end up like very awkward because essentially we can get asked anything.
Yeah.
And Josh is like, but surely none of those questions are relevant to like what the case is. And Toby's like, that's really not going to stop them. They're going to use this as like a dirt digging exercise, which is crazy. But I'm kind of with Toby and Leo. Like, I love that they're like, if you want to do it, we're behind you.
Yeah.
But our guts are saying no. And then crazily, we go back to talking about HMS Pinafore and Gilbert and Sullivan. And I am with Toby when he says, I want to be clear, I could give a damn.
The thing is, with these kinds of like running non sequiturs, I can normally kind of track how thematically they kind of reflect something of the theme of the episode. This I'm at a loss.
Like it didn't even come from anywhere. Anyway, I can't get into it because it's a rabbit hole. Just an FYI, Jed is still recording this one-page radio thing.
Has he spent the whole day on this? It's now dark outside.
Yes, I believe so.
Has he done nothing else with his Friday?
As he says, is this still my first term? Which is very funny.
Yeah.
There's a new audience. Like Donna has had to literally swap out the guests because they had to leave to go home. So this time it's like a group of school children. It is dark outside and Jed realizes that he's nearly out of time to have sex with his wife before she has to go to New Hampshire, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She has to fly somewhere.
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. And so he literally like tears off his headphones, like grabs his suit jacket and goes to run out of the room to go and have sex with Abbey Bartlet and just says to these kids, I have to go to a special meeting of the government and one day you will all understand.
Icon behavior. I do love, however, that this week POTUS has been given the fluff storyline.
Yes, I do love that. Okay, a stunning scene for Alison Janney here. Truly, like, award class acting. Not that she doesn't do that normally, but like, chef's kiss. So General Barry finally turns up in person and he is pissed off. I would have loved to have typed out this scene, but I just implore you all to go and watch it.
Yeah.
2 strikes quite early on. He says, don't interrupt me, lady. And he also at one point calls her kitten.
Which I hate.
She hits him with so many facts and statistics. You can tell he's just flabbergasted that she knows. And her final blow is to point out that a medal he wears, he never truly won, and that she'll leak that to the press if he trashes the president.
And then a moment for the final shot of CJ standing alone in her office in the kind of emotional aftermath of this scene. And I just don't understand how Alison Janney embodies such vulnerability and power in one moment. When she's performing this character. I did also watch a supercut on TikTok earlier of every moment, every occasion on which Alison Janney's name was announced to win an Emmy or other acting award. And I cried because I was so proud of her.
Yeah, that reads. Honestly, it's a masterclass. She doesn't falter once. Welcome back into the fold, CJ Cregg. We have missed you.
Yes.
But Leigh, how will Ainsley fare with the lads up the hill?
Well, for one thing, she's wearing a phenomenal coat.
This is, I've fixated on this coat to quite, because she is a petite woman.
Yes.
And it is like an ankle length cream wool coat with like a really structured shoulder and like a waist tie.
It should swamp her, but it doesn't.
She looks incredible. And with her little black pocketbook, it's patent leather black pocketbook, she just looks beautiful.
Yeah.
And smart. So Steve Joyce and Mark Brookline are these 2 people who have kind of testified that the White House didn't have the Rockland memo when they did. And, they're horrible, Leigh.
Heinous.
But also in a way that's totally believable.
Yeah.
And she handles it like a champ because I would have cried.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we're being kind of non-partisan and admitting that assholes exist in the Democratic Party also.
100%. And the thing is what I think is really clever is that all of the stuff that her horrible friends were saying about Democrats, actually these guys live up to.
Yes.
It's just that they're like really sanctimonious and like overeducated and patronizing. And so it is actually really nice to see that. I think that's very clever writing. But she's just genuinely trying to give them like the advice that the office is like, this is appropriate.
Which is very much her job.
Yeah.
As White House counsel to give them legal advice.
100% just doing her job. And one of them just looks at her like she is dirt on his shoe and just says, we both went to high school. That's a wow from me. That's a wow.
The misogyny is rampant.
I'm furious on her behalf. But let's go back to Jed trying to get his rocks off. In this scene, in the residence, both Abbey and Jed use the word Randy, and I don't like that.
Abbey Bartlet's face also when she says, Jed, I am a little bit Randy. I was screaming. I was like, please, Stockard Channing, seduce me.
She then, I'm so sorry. She then refers to going to get changed into a special little garment.
Which we never see.
Why?
I'm thinking full dominatrix outfit.
Wow. What I was thinking was like very like classic kind of like, I would say like sheer teddy, but then with like a sheer floor length dressing gown.
I see that.
And then like a little kitten heel, but like the sleeves and like the bottom of the teddy are like, you know, when it's like feathers, and then with little feather pom-poms on the shoes in a red, I think.
Yes, I
Not that I've thought about it.
I want to make it very clear that we are not kink shaming here. We do nothing but respect this.
Oh, I love it. I would also like to say that at one point in the scene, Jed says, "You have 2 minutes or I'm going to start getting Mrs. Landingham drunk."
Crazy behavior.
Which is insane. I don't like it. Now, we're all about to get hot and heavy, and then in comes something I didn't think was going to happen, which is just a reference to Nellie Bly.
We love Nellie Bly.
I
what
love
an
Nellie
icon
Bly.
and a legend.
I listened to an incredible podcast about when she like got admitted to the asylum to like do secret reporting. It is fascinating. Go and look up Nellie Bly if you don't already know about her. She is an icon. Leigh, I would like us to perform this section of script. Would you like to be Josiah Bartlet or Abbey Bartlet?
I would love to hear your Jed today. So I'm going to give you Jed, if that's okay.
Okay, we'll see how the accent goes. You know what I did just then that was stupid? I minimized the importance of the statue that was dedicated to Nellie Bly, an extraordinary woman to whom we all owe a great deal.
You don't know who she is, do you?
This isn't happening to me.
She pioneered investigative journalism.
Then she's the one I want to beat the crap out of.
She risked her life by having herself committed to a mental institution for 10 days so she could write about it. She changed entirely the way we treat the mentally ill in this country.
Yes, Abigail.
In 1890, she traveled around the world in 72 days, 6 hours, 11 minutes, and 14 seconds, besting by more than 1 week Jules Verne's 80 days.
She sounds like an incredible woman, Abby. I'm particularly impressed that she beat a fictional record. If she goes down 21,000 leagues under the sea, I'll name a damn school after her. Let's have sex.
When it comes to historical figures being memorialized in this country, women have been largely overlooked. Nellie Bly is just the tip of the iceberg.
I couldn't possibly hear about the rest of the iceberg right now.
Elizabeth Blackwell was the first American woman to be awarded an MD. She founded the Women's Medical College.
Keep talking. I'm just going to sit here and think about plutonium and the things I can do with it. It's incredible because Abbey Bartlet uses the same weaponry in conversation that Jed Bartlet does.
She is withholding sex from her husband, the President of the United States, the leader of the free world, until he will acknowledge the contribution of important women towards history.
I love her. I love her, and I love that she's been given to us so early in the season and as like a guest starring, and I would like more. I hope that her schedule is more open this season for more appearances. Should we just let another man shout at Ainsley?
Oh, yeah.
This time it's Sam, and he's simply pissed off because he wanted to go and speak to the rude men, and he is just dick swinging.
Yeah.
I love this from Ainsley, and it's a beautiful performance as well. When she says, "Sam, do you think there's any chance you could be rude to me tomorrow? Because if I have to endure another disappointment from this place I have worshipped, I am going to lose it."
I felt this in my bones.
Me too.
When you're just like in a male-dominated space and you're like, I can't actually handle another thing today.
Yeah, like I'm at capacity.
Yeah.
And what I do like is that she leaves and Sam doesn't say anything, but then he does follow her. And he follows her down the comic amount of staircases to her sad office. And he's starting to apologize as he comes through the door, but he's stopped in his tracks because someone has left a dead flower arrangement on her desk, and the card like put into it just says bitch.
This is crazy. This is like full on bullying.
It's intimidation.
It's so threatening.
It's really threatening. The dead flowers specifically are like very, like, it's dark.
Yeah.
So shit's going to go down.
And I love the immediate turn from Sam Seaborn from being like tail between his legs, I need to apologize, I've been the asshole here, to just saying, who did this?
Yeah.
And immediately jumping to her defense.
The scene where Sam shouts at Stephen Mark is iconic.
Just writing, "You're fired," signed Sam Seaborn, is the campest thing I've ever seen. And I loved it.
Yeah, also his penmanship is beautiful.
If you're going to let someone go for being a chauvinist, I think it's important that it's done with pageantry.
And I just love that it all comes back to when he's like, when I write something, I always sign my name. Like, I just love that.
Which comes back to what we were saying about Lionel, that like if you're going to call someone an idiot, you have to feel comfortable saying it to their face.
Yeah, just go for it. And Mark Brookline's like, Sam, I don't know who you think you are around here, but you can't fire us. To which the camera turns and just like Lionel Tribby's in the doorway and he's like, oh yes, he can. Leave here and don't ever come back. It's time for both of you to write your book now.
Which is another theme we're going to come back to in the study session.
But also this comment really cements him as my new favourite character, by the way. Like, what a sensational read. But we can't, sit in this moment of like triumph for Ainsley, because we immediately whiplash back into this Gilbert and Sullivan fucking nonsense, where Sam and Lionel then argue about this quote again. And then Sam says, were you the secretary of the Princeton Gilbert and Sullivan Society?
Yes. And I've never felt a screenwriter speaking through a character more than I did in this moment. And to this, I would say, I think you can take the boy out of Youth Amdram, but you cannot take the dorky theatre kid out of Aaron Sorkin's heart.
Truly. We end on a Saturday morning. Jed is recording his radio thing live, and he's changed it to talk about women so that his wife will have sex with him. This man grafting for a bang is insane. I would like to clock also that at one point he calls Abbey sweet knees.
Crazy.
That is crazy. Sweet knees?
But also just a moment for Abbey Bartlett that, what are we saying, 30 years into marriage at this point?
Yeah.
She is still making that man graft for sex. And we can
all learn from that.
Three daughters later, I cannot do anything but commend and applaud that.
And also just like the writing of that character. Thank you for fleshing her out, team. We love it. Meanwhile, Josh is deciding not to sue the KKK, but he will just sue the insurance company. And then we have a fucking wild end to this episode in the basement in Ainsley's office. Ainsley is like led downstairs. There's Gilbert and Sullivan blasting on the speakers. They've decorated the entire basement with Gilbert and Sullivan posters, and the team are just singing in her office. This is Toby, CJ, Sam, and Josh. There are fresh flowers on her desk. They've put a rug down. It's cute, but my God, is that crazy.
Did I cry? Yes, I did. But I think that's kind of the week that's in it.
I would just like the record to show that at no point did Ainsley say she was a fan of Gilbert and Sullivan.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was just about to say this would mean more if she had like revealed early in the episode that like she was a massive theater kid and like loved Gilbert and Sullivan. But just because she knows where a particular quote is from, it doesn't mean that she likes it. Like, if you're going to do a nice surprise for someone, can we make it something that they're like obsessed with and passionate about?
For sure. And I'm just going to leave my episode recap there because I have nothing more to add.
Yeah. To the quick fires.
To the quick fires, Miss Leigh. Best fashion.
What you have put, I have absolutely no notes on, which is Donna's red skirt suit with an honourable mention to CJ's silk overshirt and black cami, and also Ainsley's long cream wool coat.
Yes, correct. What could a British or Irish politician never get away with?
Using the word randy.
So true, yes. And I just think being open about having a sex life. Politics in the UK is very sexless. And I think a lot of that's come about because there's been so many like sex-based scandals over the last few decades, mainly with sex workers, affairs, people releasing information about various MPs' kinks. And And so I think, therefore, British politics has just become incredibly asexual.
Yeah, even like the fact that Boris Johnson like had a baby while he was prime minister wasn't really...
Well, it was clear that he'd had one, but like on Wikipedia, he has an unknown amount of children. Wow.
I just love leaders of nations to have a like countable, quantitative number of known children who they claim.
Correct. How long until our big ticket items like guns, abortion, free speech, religion come up? I think for me, obviously, there was a lot of discussion of like suing the KKK, which was a very fun big ticket item here. But I think actually for me, it was, can Republicans and Democrats respect one another?
Yes, fully.
Which feels, very real right now.
With like a light zesting of the healthcare system.
Yeah, just a little sprinkling of that over the top.
And healthcare reform.
Best writerly moment.
You found your office, I see. Such as it is.
That was perfect for me. I think mine has to go to Lionel Tribby with it's time for both of you to write your book now. Just a phenomenal read. And also just like him looking at those two men and being like, you're the sort of man who'll go away and write a book. Man, I feel like a man.
There was a point where Ainsley and Sam were having a bit of a tete-a-tete, and she was explaining how the meeting had gone with the two hateful men.
Yeah.
And he just says, that was spunky of you.
Yeah.
Which I hated.
I think my my kind of 3 top hitters for Man, I Feel Like a Man. Men said lots of horrible things in this episode.
You know what? There is more misogyny happening in season 2 than I feel there was in season 1.
More outright misogyny.
Yeah.
Which I think there was quite a lot of insidious misogyny in season 1.
Yes.
And I don't know if I prefer the outright misogyny because I'm like, okay, is it more of a pointed thing? Are you trying to portray the White House in a certain way? Like, are you being clever or is this just what you think is funny? We'll probably just see how that pans out. But I think my top hitters are going to be, we both went to high school, which I hated. Don't interrupt me, lady, which I also hated. And then, Mr. President, have you lost what little was left of your mind? I can't possibly work like this, which I loved.
Yes.
I loved deeply. And what was the moment that made you proudest to be an American?
Just Sam Seaborn coming in and seeing the dead flowers on Ainsley's desk and his first response being, who did this?
Yeah, I love Sam. I can't wait for it to be ruined for me. The moment that made me proudest to be an American is just the concept of Abbey Bartlet's special little garment. And that's me done.
Amazing. Okay, I've kind of been on one this week with the study session.
Okay, fantastic. Keep going.
I'm not going to lie to you. I've become mildly obsessive. This may be a chaotic study session, but I've kind of latched onto it in a way that I can only describe as like akin to stalking your ex's new partner.
Okay, expand.
So we were obviously watching the election night coverage this week, and we both, I think, were quite struck and fascinated by a woman called Karoline Leavitt.
Yes.
Who was Trump's national campaign press secretary and is now tipped to be the White House press secretary. So the CJ Cregg of the Trump administration, part 2. And I find her incredibly compelling and fascinating. And I wanted to understand a little bit more of her background and how she came to be Trump's national campaign press secretary at the age of 27.
Yeah, which is a huge job to have at that age. I mean, like, I'm not saying that she's too young to have it. I'm just saying, like, what
journey do we even take to get there?
Please tell me.
So I did a little bit of digging, and I can tell you that on her Instagram, Karoline Leavitt's bio reads, wife, mama, Trump campaign, national press secretary, American flag emoji. And her story highlights include mama life, MAGA, media, cooking, truth, faith, and fitness.
Oh, okay then.
So a lot to unpack there. In her own words, she posted to Instagram, or as the media always seems to say, she took to Instagram.
Yes, that's a strange turn of phrase that's become writ, isn't it? Anyway, continue.
On the last day of the last Trump administration, to say, nearly 3 years ago, I walked into the White House for the first time as an intern. Tomorrow, I officially depart as a proud former spokeswoman. It's been the honor of my life to serve President Trump. So she initially came into the Trump White House, obviously, as she says, as an intern, and she left at the end of the Trump administration as assistant press secretary. She then went on to become the communications director for Elise Stefanik, who is a very conservative member of Congress.
Yes.
Who actually Cassidy Hutchinson refers to as having kind of a mentor-like relationship with when she was still kind of in the Trump world.
Right.
And Elise Stefanik continues to be quite a big mentor figure to Karoline Leavitt today. Then, coming out of that, Karoline Leavitt actually ran for Congress in New Hampshire at the age of 23.
Wow.
She launched her campaign when she was 23. You have to be 25 to serve in Congress. So she, I think, would have basically turned 25 like just before she started her term.
Working. Okay.
She actually won the GOP primary to be the Republican nominee for that seat in Congress. That's
okay.
Including beating another member of the Trump administration who was like a man in his 30s. So she like beat 5 other Republican candidates to become the nominee. And she was only the second ever member of Gen Z to become a party's nominee for Congress. Because that was literally, she was born in 1997. So that was 2022 was the first year that any member of Gen Z was eligible to become a member of Congress.
I mean, she's certainly driven, isn't she?
I mean, there is absolutely no denying. Do I disagree with absolutely everything she stands for? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
But there is no denying, and I think why I wanted to kind of dive into her kind of bio, obviously, because I think she's going to be a big force in the next Trump administration. But also, I think when we think about like the future of MAGA, after a Donald Trump, she clearly is very talented at what she does. And watching some of her videos, both like on her own private social media and also when she's kind of representing Trump, there is something very charismatic about her. Even though I disagree with literally everything that's coming out of her mouth, she's a very talented speaker.
Yeah, and I think that when people like that kind of come to the foreground in the kind of MAGA sphere, I think they are really eye-catching and they are really grabbing because there are so many poor orators.
Yes.
Mr. Trump included. Like, and me as someone who's stumbling over this probably don't have a leg to stand on, but the fact that she can conduct herself, and when we were watching that interview on election night, she was so prepped. Her answers were really clear and concise. Did I agree with them? No. But I was like, that's going to take you far.
Yeah.
That the way that you can respond to journalists really poking you for things. I'm going to be really interested to see what role she plays in the next administration.
Yeah, so she posted in 2023 on her social media about returning back to her kind of alma mater as a speaker, saying, 2015, I was an eager 18-year-old student attending every political event possible and listening to every speaker, as pictured here, visibly bored by John Kasich, trying to figure out what the heck politics is and how I can get involved. 2023, I am the speaker at my alma mater, sharing my personal advice from serving in the White House, working on Capitol Hill, and becoming the youngest nominee for US Congress in history.
I mean, it's pretty impressive, isn't it?
It is impressive.
Now, what she's saying is actually something that's incredibly inspiring, which is like, as an 18-year-old, it's really like we should be going out there and trying to work out like what politics means to us and like what we care about and what we stand for, and we should be actively participating. And actually, you know, it's very fresh still, but it feels like something that perhaps the next 4 years might need from America and politically people who are Democrats, young Democrats, is to like be politically engaged and active.
Yes.
Because say what you want about people with views that we don't agree with. But you know what they always do? Talk about them. And organize things where they can talk about them with other people that feel the same way and stir people up. And yeah, I think it all goes back to that fateful town hall meeting with Jed Bartlet, where he was like, when you look at the younger, like that, like, what was it, like 18 to 25? It's like a really hard age group to get politically engaged.
Yeah. And I think, you know, if we look at the statistics of like where our demographic white women put their votes in this election, I think it's really important to look at what might be compelling about a figure like Karoline Leavitt. And I find her a compelling figure to study, I think, because she's so close. In many ways, we have a lot in common. You know, we're so close in age. We're coming from like a similar kind of generation. And so it's just fascinating to see like what happens when you take some of the same ingredients and it just, what it produces is so diametrically opposed.
Yeah, definitely.
She also in that same year in 2023 posted a photo on Instagram where she's wearing a cap that says Republicans are hotter, with the caption, "Don't shoot the messenger." The post is an ad for a dating app.
For Republicans.
Which she says the anti-woke dating app for conservatives, only 2 genders allowed.
Yikes.
She also did an ad on her Instagram for a like fitness clothing company, like workout wear, athleisure, if you will. And the caption reads, "Advocating for conservative American values of faith, family, and freedom is my passion. It has also become my career. Another one of my passions is fitness. I was an athlete growing up, playing NCAA D2 college softball, and try my best to work out 4 to 5 times a week. I believe it is a privilege to take care of ourselves mentally and physically. But unfortunately, most of the workout apparel brands that I have always loved have gone woke. I could give a plethora of examples, but Nike recently using men to advertise women's sports bras really did it for me. That's why I was pumped when I came across Yakum Apparel. They're a pro-America conservative workout apparel company based in the USA, and their clothes are seriously amazing. Their material is buttery soft, their quality truly fits and feels better than Lululemon, not to mention their prices are even more affordable. As corporate America goes woke and slams crap that we don't like down our throats, we should spend our money elsewhere and support businesses that align with our values. That's capitalism, baby. Use my link in bio and discount code Karoline20 to get 20% off your order." From Yakum Apparel today.
She's had a crush on a girl. That's my read. She played college softball, Leigh.
I couldn't possibly comment.
She played college.
Let's be careful.
Softball. I mean, I'm just making a silly joke. That's what I'm making. It's just a silly joke. It's just a silly joke. Doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be funny. Do you want to continue?
She actually lost her run for New Hampshire Congress, for New Hampshire Congress seat. And then she got a job as a official spokeswoman for MAGA Incorporated.
Wow. Okay, great.
Yeah. Make America Great Again Incorporated. And kind of while she was in that role, she made a reel. As you can see, I really dived into this woman's Instagram in like quite a big way.
I love that for you, Leigh. Your algorithms are going to be ruined forever.
My algorithms are going to be absolutely screwed. She made a reel responding to Trump's indictment in the Fulton County, Georgia case. And I think the way that she frames it is really interesting for us to read. So she says, Donald Trump is going to be arrested for the 4th time since launching his campaign. And here's what you need to know. The indictment is in Fulton County, Georgia, where Atlanta is. And it's being brought forward by Fani Willis, who is the deranged district attorney there, who campaigned on getting Donald Trump, not getting the violent murderers, criminals, and rapists of the city which she oversees, where the murder rate is higher than Chicago's. Upon announcing that she was indicting the former president, Fani Willis posted a fundraising email trying to profit from the charges.
Are you allowed to call a district attorney deranged in America?
They have...
in terms of defamation, they have very different defamation laws, right?
They have very different defamation laws. Basically, the First Amendment, freedom of speech, is so powerful that you can kind of say what you want. And deranged seems to be a real buzzword for both the kind of Trump campaign but also specifically for Karoline Leavitt. Some other people who she has referred to as being deranged, just a small selection for you.
I'm so excited for this list.
So she went on Fox News and Newsmax in her capacity as a spokeswoman for MAGA to respond to some comments that Whoopi Goldberg made in the wake of several of the Trump indictments, where she referred to the liberal and deranged women on The View should immediately seek help.
Ooh, okay.
Voters will not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help because voters are going to re-elect Donald Trump back to the White House very soon. Because voters see these trials that are being brought forward against President Trump for what they are, sham show trials. They are election interference.
I disagree.
Fantastic.
I can't actually get into it. That just I disagree, and I find it deranged that the opinion she has been so pervasive that he has been reelected. But hey, that's fact, and it's happening, so we move on and we live with it.
She also came for Robert De Niro. She said,
is he also deranged?
She tweeted saying, nobody likes Joe Biden except for deranged Hollywood freaks like Robert De Niro.
I love that of all the Hollywood freaks she could have chosen, she went for Robert De Niro.
She didn't come for Gaga. She didn't come for...
She came for Robert De Niro. That's really funny.
She did actually give a phenomenal read to Taylor Swift after the Taylor Swift endorsement, where she said, respectfully, I've been a long-term Swiftie before being a Swiftie was cool, but Taylor has made a career out of choosing the wrong man. She's very good at what she does. What can I say? A little part of me kind of ended up respecting some of it. I was I'm so confused. Do I have a crush? I don't know what's going on.
I think this is the thing, though. It's I can disagree on a fundamental, almost on a cellular level, with everything that woman believes in. However, she's making a phenomenal career out of what she's doing, and
she's just very, very good at it.
What a read on Taylor. That's unbelievable.
Another classic Instagram caption: national TV from my little home studio to defend the greatest president in my lifetime, followed by dinner with family. This is 26. Thank you for all the birthday love. I am so blessed.
I think when I was 26, where were we when we were 26?
We were in the pandemic.
Yeah, so we turned 27 in 2020, didn't we?
No. Oh God, I don't even know.
I don't even know. However, I feel like most of the time I was, I don't know, hanging out with my cat, watching reruns of Friends or Grey's Anatomy, and binge drinking. I feel that me and this woman have very different approaches to life. I find #blessed to be an offensive phrase. Tell me more before I throw myself out of a window.
So when she had won the primary to be the official Republican nominee for the New Hampshire seat, she was asked about abortion, and she said, well, I am pro-life, but I am also pro-constitution. And I believe in our United States Supreme Court, which just said this is an issue for the states to decide. Here in the grandest state, we have just passed the first ban in our state's history. I applaud our state's legislators for doing that, and I hope the people of our state will continue to elect great legislators here at the state level to make those decisions. We have a greater voice. But let me just say, my far-left Democrat extremist opponent, Chris Pappas, is radical on this issue. He and his party support abortion up until the moment of birth, anytime, anywhere, taxpayer-funded.
Was that correct?
No.
This is the thing that I find really confusing, because obviously I think, like you said about like free speech in America, and that's like a fundamental part of like what the country was founded on. But I think for me, something that I find challenging about that is that you, especially as like someone who has a voice in politics, can say that something has happened or someone has said something that is not true. And you don't need to provide any factual backup. And that feels like it can be dangerous. Sometimes I struggle with that because it makes me frustrated. But I also understand that like it's a backbone of American society and identity.
Yes.
That's my hot take.
Which brings us actually back to her time working as an assistant press secretary in the Trump administration part 1. Because somebody else who was doing that same position at the same time is a woman called Sarah Matthews, who was literally doing the same job that Karoline Leavitt was doing at the time. And she has since come out staunchly against Trump. She resigned after January 6th. She was working in the White House that day, and she said, she's quoted in USA Today as saying, in my eyes, it was a complete dereliction of duty that he did not uphold his oath of office. I lost all faith in him that day. She resigned as deputy press secretary in the wake of January 6th, and she then campaigned for Kamala Harris with Liz Cheney.
So she's part of this faction of the Republican Party that's like anti-Trump, pro-Republican.
Yes.
Is that correct? Where it's like there's a group that are like, we want to bring the Republican Party back to it's what it was before Trump.
She said she did not envisage herself endorsing Harris 4 years ago, but she also didn't think that an insurrection at our nation's capital was possible. I also didn't think that we would ever have a president who would disrupt the peaceful transfer of power for the first time in our nation's history. So it made the decision easy because I believe that Donald Trump has shown us that he is wholly unfit to serve as president ever again.
I mean, she said it, so...
Yes, absolutely. Now, what is interesting is obviously Karoline Leavitt's response to this, because she is somebody who worked alongside Sarah Matthews, knew her well.
So they were previous colleagues.
This is when she was in her role as the spokeswoman for Make America Great Again Incorporated. She went on Newsmax to respond, basically saying that it's infuriating that 3 of her former Trump White House colleagues were, quote, spewing lies about the 45th president that are straight out of the Democrats' playbook. And here she is referring to Alyssa Farah, Sarah Matthews, and Cassidy Hutchinson. She says, these are 3 women who, as a matter of fact, are my 3 former White House colleagues who went from Trump supporters to Trump haters very quickly because they learned that's the fastest way to get your face on television and sell crappy books these days. Here's the deal. All 3 of these women were very complimentary of President Trump when they worked for him. Alyssa Farah said President Trump was a remarkable man. Sarah Matthews said it was the greatest honor of her lifetime to work in the Trump White House. And Cassidy Hutchinson sold a book full of falsehoods that have been debunked by numerous witnesses and credible people. I think it's the most pitiful statement of all when they said that Donald Trump poses a greater threat to democracy than Joe Biden, who is literally allowing a mass invasion of illegal people into our country. And she goes on. Knowing these women, having worked with them, it's infuriating for me to watch them sit here and spew these lies that are right out of the Democrats' playbook.
I need to finish this on a high, Lee.
Yes.
I'm dipping.
I think it's fascinating to think what the interpersonal relationships of the people that all worked together in the first Trump White House and are all kind of coming down on very separate views of what the reality of that situation was. I think it's fascinating to kind of look and think, well, on a human level, these are just women who used to work together.
Yeah.
And obviously their kind of interpersonal relationships are now up on this kind of world stage for the world to view. Now, what I can, again, only commend her for is she also had a baby in July. She was basically pregnant for the whole of the Trump campaign.
Yeah.
And I think the assassination attempt on Donald Trump happened about like 2 days or something after she gave birth. She was like back at work basically straight away. What is interesting is like even the kind of discussion of her personal life kind of ends up being so politicized because she went on Fox to kind of talk about the state of the race, etc. And they were, congratulating her on her pregnancy, and her response to that was to say, oh, it's such an honor to be here for my first Mother's Day, as I'm, expecting. And, I am going to be a mother. And well, first of all, Joe Biden's campaign can't even define what a woman is. And they call us birthing people instead of mothers, which is what we are. And what's worse than that is his policies.
Okay.
In summation, I think there's a lot of kind of... In summation, I think there's a lot of kind of like white woman feminism, pink hat stuff that one can look at. And, I think she is rightfully to be commended for what she has managed to kind of pull off and achieve in the course of her, at this point, still very short career. I think we're going to be living with Karoline Leavitt in the kind of public American political spheres for a long time because I think she's a huge political talent. I think when we look at the future of MAGA, I think she is already a big player, and I can see her being a big player into the future. And she does kind of combine this fascinating combination of like political operative, Instagram influencer, and politician. I mean, she clearly has political ambitions of her own. It's not about wanting to necessarily be in a press role on behalf of somebody else forever.
I think we'll see another congressional race from her at some point.
Yeah. And so I think she was somebody that I wanted to highlight about kind of what to keep our eye on, but also, as I say, I think she's very, not me being in love with her, Jesus Christ. I think she is very charismatic. And therefore, I think some of the answers as to why the Democratic Party lost some young white women this election, I think a lot of the answers lie in charismatic political operatives who combine that acumen with a kind of Instagram influencer presence.
Yeah.
I think a lot of those answers lie in people like Karoline Leavitt.
Yeah. And like coming back to the Ainsley Hayes of it all, it's that a lot of the time, I guess, liberals can look at individuals like her and be dismissive. Of like, oh, you're just a fanatic. And, everything you say is so incendiary, like, I can't even take you seriously.
And don't get me wrong, I mean, the woman has drunk the Kool-Aid. Do you know what I mean? She's fully MAGA.
Yeah, she is to the brim with the Kool-Aid at this point. But I think it's important, especially now, for us to cease to underestimate the power of individuals like this woman.
Yes, exactly.
And the influence that they have, and that it is so easy to do what I've done for the last 20 minutes and like roll my eyes and be like, oh my God, how awful. But the reality is, if we're not proposing an opposition to them, and if we're not taking them seriously and like standing up and being like, okay, well, this is our take instead, then we're just allowing them to roll down the hill and continue to get momentum.
Yeah.
Fascinating study, Seshley.
Hopefully we don't hear from anyone's lawyers after that.
I mean,
it's all publicly available on her Instagram. We just happen to disagree with it.
yeah, exactly. And hey, people have tried to sue me before, Leigh.
Oh my God, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So, have at it. You know, I've got nothing for you to take from me. I have so much debt already. Let's just go.
Okay, while I'm feeling frisky and free, what I will say I find fascinating is that there is absolutely, basically no presence of her husband on her Instagram, nor are there any photos of her wedding. And I've incessantly been Googling her husband for days.
I hope he's ugly.
She's very happy sharing like stuff about her pregnancy and her baby and like her mum and her like brothers and stuff. That seems to be like all over her Instagram. But her husband is just like very mysterious. And that's my salacious bit of gossipy nonsense.
Will we ever see his face? This has been a wild ep. From the frisky and free Bartlet's trying to get it on to the depths of MAGA. We've lost ourselves on this journey, Leigh.
Google now thinks I'm MAGA curious.
Well, my algorithms have been thrown off because I have my phone next to me while we're watching The Secret Life of Mormon Wives. And now I'm getting all of this trad wife content on my Instagram and all of these like people sharing prayers. Well, I think we should meet up next week because frankly, I'm excited for where season 2 is going. Mm-hmm. And I want to continue on this kind of like fun, frisky and free energy in the Bartlet administration.
Yeah.
And the next episode, Leigh, is called The Lame Duck Congress, which feels relevant.
Yeah.
So should we do this again next week?
See you next week.
See you next week. Dear listeners, if you do want to get in touch with us, you can always reach out on the socials.
At Queer Gals Watch, we are now also on TikTok.
Are we? I'm scared.
We are.
Stop trying to make me download TikTok, Leigh. I won't do it.
We're on TikTok. We're also queergalswatch@gmail.com. If you have feelings, thoughts, things you need to express, if you want a pen pal in the UK because you're so stressed out about being an American in November 2024, we're here for you for anything you may wish. Also, if you are able to check out our Patreon, we're really grateful and thankful for everyone who supports us over there because it just makes the podcast more sustainable for us to keep doing.
Woohoo! Right, Leigh. I'll see you next time, yeah, love?
Yeah.
All right, bye-bye then.
Bye.
Cheerio.